Digitalization is the future of healthcare. This is what I heard 18 years back when I began my study in bioinformatics. Now, this is the best example that things doesn't happen overnight, or it takes time for things to happen in a healthcare business. The good news is that digital revolution is knocking on the doors. That's the good side of it. On the flip side, the story goes that with every revolution, the thing with every revolution is that it never solves a problem without creating 10 more. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about, okay, where the opportunities of this digital revolution in healthcare, where the challenges, where the problems, what the strategy going forward. So just to start off with, talk about my employer. So I work for the Helios Group. We are a Fortune 500 company, one of the biggest or large family-owned companies in Germany. Total revenue for 2018 was almost 22 billion, and this is what we make out of this 11 different businesses that we have. I work for Helios Medical, which is a company active in our orthopedics domain. Now, I want to start this on a very philosophical note, talking about the pyramid of life, and you're going to help me out here. So, what do you think is the most important thing in life? It's early in the morning, you can do it, come on. Most important thing in life. Sorry? Oxygen. All right, let's give it to health. It's related. Second most important thing in life. Bang on. Your relationships. That's very important. The third most important thing in life. Job. Why do you do a job? For money. Money. That's the three most important things in life. Now I want you to take out your e-bodies, as one of the previous speakers said, and check out, so what do you have on there in terms of all of these things. So let's talk about money. What kind of app is money related already present in your mobile device? So all of these things which are more or less money related are the apps that you have on your money side. What about your relationships? So what apps do you have? Of course, depending on which age group you belong to, there will be different apps on your mobile device relating to your relationships. What about health? What do you have about health? Step count? Fitbit? Running? That's, by the way, fitness. That's not health. I mean, how many people here has a health app inside the mobile device? There you go, 3, 4. And we're talking of around 50 people here, so around 10%. So that explains where things are. Now, if you ask these things to the healthcare management people, they said, all right, so far, our user is not prepared and we didn't face that challenge from the market. But rightly, what Henry Ford said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would say faster horses, yeah? So this is what the people said, or the gentleman there in the picture really said that it's hard to design a product by focus group. A lot of people don't know what they want until you show it to them. So it's very important to focus on a healthcare. There's a big market pending out there, you know, which can be harvested. Now, if you don't do it as medical device sector or pharma, tech is not sitting idle. They've reached to quite a lot of highest level possible when it comes to making technology looks more attractive and sexy. But they are really interested in healthcare, and they are coming behind healthcare. I think you all know this news. So actually the Apple Watch, the new Apple Watch is a class 2 medical device, detects falls, irregular heart rhythms, and so on. So now the technology companies have a lot of interest in healthcare, but I'm not going to talk about now the technology interest in healthcare and so on. We're going to focus where is the biggest opportunity in this area. And I'm going to talk more about from orthopedic domain because I work for an orthopedic company. Right. So how does the orthopedic care environment looks like right now? It looks positive. We will have a compounded annual growth rate of 5.2%. The market is hitting around 50 billion by 2022, and the factors that are helping to increase is that the surgical volume is increasing. Yeah, a lot of people are getting old. The old age population is increasing, so more people require surgery. The insurance base, because of orthopedic surgery is elective surgery. So it's a rich man's show, as we say. But as the number of insured people are increasing more and more in Asia as well as in US, so the market is increasing. Now, the biggest trend that's driving this forward is actually of a fast-track surgery, and second, to transition to this value-based reimbursement. So let's try to understand what do you mean by a fast-track surgery. As the word says, you fast-track people, you fast-track manager, you fast-track patients. So fast-track surgery is basically when you want to send the patient home as soon as possible after a surgery. Now, of course, it has its three components: preoperative, operative, and postoperative. And of course, the clear advantage is here. So save time, save money, save resources by reducing the hospital stay. Now, if the question is that every patient can be fast-tracked? They want, so that will be a golden scenario that if every patient can be fast-tracked, but it's not the case. Not everybody can be fast-tracked. One very important criteria for fast-tracking is the preoperative care, or the hidden challenge at this moment are the patient education. How do you ensure that the patient is properly educated before the procedure? Sometimes the patient comes in, sees the big machinery, and the blood pressure is just going up. So this created a problem. So you got to find a solution how the patient education is being solved, and that's the current challenge in the market. Then is the post-operative follow-up. You send the patient home on an average after 2 to 3 days, but especially in an orthopedic care environment, it's considered to be very relevant to observe how the patient is doing up to 2 to 6 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks after surgery, because that's where the earlier vital signs of infection can happen, which is a very dangerous indication. But how do you ensure that the patient is recovering fine there? And also, the whole world is turning into outcomes. So how do you ensure that the outcomes are being measured remotely when the patient is not sitting next to you? Then, of course, everybody's talking about the reduction of cost of care, care providers' burden. So how do you reduce cost in that sense? How do you reduce last-minute cancellation of surgeries? So I bet each of the countries from where you come from, this is a big problem for healthcare system, the last-minute cancellation of surgery. And one cancellation is costing the system almost 2,000 euros. That's quite a lot of money. So apart from that, what's changing? The value-based reimbursement. That's the big buzzword we all are talking about in medical device industry. So the do more, bill more era is being replaced by no outcome, no income era. So what does that mean? So for every product, you better should show that it's giving better care, better outcome, and optimizing costs. That's very important. So you have to show that your product, what you are bringing to the market, is delivering value. If you can't show that, you have a problem with reimbursement. Now, on one side, you are throwing the patient out as soon as possible. On the other side, you want to measure outcomes. You want to measure how the patient is doing. How you will do it? There's no other means than digital tools to do it. Apart from that, the value-based medicine as a core concept is putting patient in the center of all healthcare. So when you place the patient in the center of healthcare, and they are the most important people, they want their voice to be heard. They want to give feedback. What do you need there? You need a platform where patients can share their experiences so far. And this needs to be developed. There doesn't exist many so far. So altogether, we say that, all right, when you say you have to take the first step into digitalization, so what does it need? So of course, you have to satisfy the 3 Ps involved in any healthcare business, which is payer, provider, as well as the patient. And what they wanted to know is how your platform can accelerate work efficiency, enhance customer experiences, automate the protocols that they have been doing very manually, collect outcome data, which is most important for them for future, showing value. Apart from that, reduce that last-minute cancellation, which is costing them a lot of money. What else? Decrease administration time, save resources, and enhance care experience, which is most important. Patient at the center, so he needs to have an enhanced care experience. Now, I said, which platforms can you choose? So basically, any digital system that fulfills this criteria or who can satisfy the need of 3 Ps should be good enough to go in the market. So, of course, for us as a company, we have our system, which is called Helios Care. It's basically a 2-way system. There is a main system or a dashboard sitting on the hospital side. There's an app that goes on the patient side, and it's basically communication between these two devices, which helps to automate and digitalize care pathways, basically, for the patients, help patients, get prepared for their surgical as well as recovery outcomes, as well as provides the care provider or the hospital with the up-to-date insights. How is the patient doing in real time? What do we digitalize? Basically, yes. So the pre-care side of things, right from the first step, the patient comes in and he's registered for orthopedic surgery, his education part, avoiding that last-minute cancellation, giving real-time explanation, okay, how is the patient doing, how prepared is he or she for the surgery, and in the end, tracking the recovery side of things and saying, all right, how well is the patient recovering, and finding out the bad patients, or what we say, you're right, which are having problem, calling them back as soon as possible. As we say, prevention is always better than cure. Now, that's all good. So if you have figured out the market, there is a need, you have a solution to satisfy that need. Does the story end here? Absolutely not. The story begins here. Because now we're going to talk about, all right, you have identified there's a clear-cut market need, you have a solution in there, which is solving that market need. Now you got to bring that solution to the market, and now comes the challenges. So first of all, the challenge, internal digitalization versus customer end digitalization. So most of us, when we talk digital, we want to digitalize as a company, which is very different. So I put an example here, your home renovation versus, if you are a supplier, you want to do a renovation, or at a construction site, with a lot of people involved. At your home, you can work at your own pace. You don't need to ask somebody if you have to break a wall or anything like that. It's all very much self-dependent. You can choose when do you want to work. This doesn't work at a construction site, because then there's a customer involved. You have to go in there. You have to align with their processes. They guide the move. You cannot necessarily push on things. And that means that the sales cycle duration is clearly quite a lot of things is controlled by customer rather than you. So which is a challenge in this regards, and that's why the sales cycle with new digital products, especially in healthcare, is quite slow, because it's not internal digitalization where you can control everything. It depends, it's a complicated system. First of all, as a company, you have to sort out your own internal processes, and B, on the hospital side, this is a completely new thing. They don't have processes set up. They also require time to set up these processes. So there's a challenge. How you can overcome them, so your momentum should push customer. If you are slow, if you haven't figured out yourself, how the process will look like, which can happen, especially in bigger companies, it's going to slow down the customer at even more. So you have to be very careful there, that you have done your homework, you have got things sorted out, and then you move to the customer, because your momentum is going to push things forward. What else? So, avoid early complex IT integrations. Now, a customer wants everything. You go to him, you say, all right, we can do it. They get so excited. That's the beauty of digital. You can make some people excite very soon with digital. And then they want everything. Oh, can you link it to my hospital IT system? Can you link it to my electronic health records and everything? Yes, we can, but we don't want to do it as a first step, because we wanted to find out, all right, how does it work in your practice? Because if you are stuck in that early complications, something that takes you 1 year or 6 months to 1 year is easily going to take you 2 years, and you don't want to do that. Take a first small step, find out, all right, how things are going on, and then jump on big. And especially when it comes to integrations and with new regulations, don't jump on with things there. The B2B2C challenge in digital health. So far as Medtech, we have been selling B2B. So that has been our clear strategy. So far, it was all about selling to individual clinicians, selling them to IT, selling to hospital administration. You are doing that, you are successful there, you are done with the show. Now comes the most important thing. You got to sell it to the patient or the real end consumer. And he has to be engaged in the technology. If he messes it up, your whole hard work your whole hard work going forward with this initial process that you did will fall apart. And most important, finally, is to demonstrate value, that you are coming up with a digital tool. Of course, you need to get investments back. That's what the management from your side wants. But how do you get investment back? You have to demonstrate the value to the healthcare enterprise, that there is return on investment if they invest into it. Plus, you get to tell that end user, which can be a user on a hospital side, which can be a nurse or a doctor, as well as finally a patient, that the content or the device is generating value, is helping them out. There is a great user experience. The flip side for it is that it takes substantial time, effort, and money to achieve success in this regards. Patience is the key. Nothing is going to happen overnight. It looks like it's going to happen overnight, but it's not. All right, then is the challenge not to overcomplicate things. Because that's the problem with technology. Because there's so much available that we tends to forget the end user. And we tends to go, all right, we can offer you this, we can offer you this. Yes, this can get them super excited, but when it comes to final usage, you don't want that. Keep it strictly simple as a first step. It's very important. You don't want to confuse the user with too many functionalities in that regards. And then is the overall challenge with digital health. So it is combination of two things, information technology sector as well as healthcare sectors. And then the information technology sector is running sprints, Life cycles are slow. You can generate value in short period of time. You can see the return on investment in short period of time. This doesn't work in healthcare. It's a very marathon approach. Now, on a digital health, as I see, you got to keep a balance between the two, the pace as well as persistence. And this is the real challenge, but this is what you have to overcome to be successful in this market. All right, so talking of challenges, let's say that they are fulfilled, then where is the value? So, of course, one more time, iterating the digital challenge is basically the longer sales cycle at this moment, because the processes are quite slow at this moment with the hospital. They're really starting up processes. Bigger challenge that was also mentioned by the last speaker, unclear understanding of GDPR. This is a big scare in the market about GDPR, especially when it comes to patient data. The hospitals are going crazy. They don't even know at times, understand. This is just fear that this is dangerous, like a bomb. It will explode anytime. That's not the case, but eventually, this is with every new revolution. People are scared about it. There are blown up media reports, fear to collect health data that you have to overcome eventually over time. So, all right, if you overcome them, where's the value? So where's the business model taking it forward? So on one side, as a medical device company, you can sell it digital as a standalone. So clearly you can choose it as software as a service model, perpetual licensing model, or per patient or per procedure. You can cut it in pieces of salami the way you want. But basically, this is a direct revenue generating model where you can go to the market and say, right, this is our digital product offering that we want to offer it to you, and you can make directly money out of it. The second model is, of course, where digital is a value-added service. Now, you can combine it with one device. Digital is just going as a hardware and a software approach. Or you say that you just want to collect data, offering it as a free service. Now, data is important. Data is the future fuel. You require this data from the MDRs that is coming, for the FDA, for the CE marking. So reimbursement authorities are really interested in this data. And you can back up your products with data and find out the real outcomes. So that's the thing with this model, is that this generates revenue, but in a long term, not in a short term. So where's the value with data? This is one of the slides that Esten Young put forward, where they said, all right, the future value is all about innovation. And innovation comes to generating outcome as well as personalizing on things, which is always done with data. So future value lie with outcome measurement versus personalization linked to data in that sense. And just to give an example in that case, let's say there is a hospital. You go initially with measurements with digital tools. You can collect data about different comorbidities a patient comes up with and collect outcome. Eventually, what's going to happen is that you're going to build a big database or a registry for a hospital. And then in future, when you have this big data, you can always come up with using machine learning algorithms and so on, which is kind of a decision-making model. So when a new patient comes in, a service is already there, which is providing a doctor information. All right, here's a new patient. already 5 patients you have seen before had this outcome pathway. Maybe you can design a better strategy to move this patient forward. Something in this, so there can be alert-based system set up in this regards. Now, to summarize, basically, so clearly a painful unmet need exists in the market. Everybody wants to decrease cost and improve outcomes. So there is a need for digitalization clearly in the market, but as said, innovation always comes with complexity and unanswerable questions. We are all taking first steps in digitalization, be it industry, be it hospitals. So there's processes that has to be set up on both sides. Sales cycle will be slow. And we are guided by unforeseeable challenges. So staying agile is the need going forward. GDPR stands as an example where there is fear in the market so far, which is blocking us or even prolonging the process in this regards. Each digital player will, of course, learn with time and experiences, but clearly there is a reward for early people, so early movers in this market. And as I said, speed is the need. That's very important. Of course, your momentum is it's very important that your momentum is pushing the customer forward and kind of closing the sales cycle much more earlier. So my key messages in this regards is that, all right, focus on the new ecosystem in healthcare, which is the patient. So we tend to still follow the same story and end it right now when you made a sale to your B2B business, or basically to a hospital. It's getting more complicated than this in here, because patient is center now. So you got to be focusing on the patient and find it out, that the patient is not getting confused with the technology and he's really loving it. Because if the patient is the boss, if he's going to love it, he's going to push it back to the healthcare authorities and they will love the product because the end user loves the product in that regards. And finally, of course, digital is a disruptive innovation in healthcare. So this was past when we had low cost, low technology, and low access. Then there is present. We have high costs overall. We have high technologies. There's no insufficiency of technology right now in the market, but there is low access. And if you look into the future overall with digital, where you should go, it's reducing the cost. Technology will still grow. Technology will still stay high. And what will be the future will be high access to this technology overall. I have no doubt that digital is the future now in healthcare, but got to be patient, and the company which is patient and having a best strategy moving forward will be the key leader in this market. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thanks. Interesting to get the sort of patient centricity into the whole discussion as well. Any questions for now?
Eric Barsch from Smith & Nephew.
All right.
I'm coming from the orthopedic business. And I'm quite interesting because we are thinking in that area. However, on one hand, the typical patient we have is 75 to 80 years old and probably not very keen to technologies. And on the other hand, we are not allowed to collect patient data, even not from clinical studies. So all of that has to be anonymized.
Yeah.
So the one route is patient will provide us the data themselves and agree you can use that. However, the patient has before the surgery no idea what product he will receive.
Sure.
Sometimes that changes during the surgery. And the second thing is we will have no access to the hospital that they deliver us the data. So that is a little bit the key point, that touch point. Where can we get access to that, and what is the added value if we get this patient data? What we see is the potential to reduce logistic streams when we have an idea what the patient is, that we do not always send all implants, all sizes. However, beyond that, it is for me still not clear if a hospital who is in direct contact to the patient, but he has whatever 8 suppliers in the house, and not only on orthopedics, on all the other devices, how do you get your information, or what is the danger that you are in conflict with competitors if you offer something and then the hospital is using that with competitive products?
So first of all, coming to the old age question, that yes, it's indeed true. Most of the orthopedic patients are old. Now, there's two ways going forward in this regards. They are old, but can somebody in the family can help it out, in the usage? Because in our technology, at the click of a button, you can share it around with anybody in the world who can do it for you, or in parallel. So one care pathway can be seen by two or multiple people in that regards. Another way going forward, which worked really in private clinics in Germany, is that yes, these older people are not digital savvy, but in the end, if you just give them a tablet with just one device there, so this is their paper, this is their pen, and they can use it if the technology is good and self-explanatory in that regards. Coming to data, yes, data is the most critical thing. So especially, one thing is that we don't relate it to our products. So we don't want to go there in the market and sell that, all right, this is a tool that we want to take data or collect data related to our products. No, we don't want to do that. Clearly, the hospital doesn't want that. Yes, there is a patient consent always upfront that he signs in to share his data. And normally this data is collected for hospitals for their purpose. Going as a model, unless you really have a model in place or alignment for a clinical study with a hospital where you wanted to collect data specifically to your product. But again, all that goes is the consent form that the patient is signing it in. So yeah, that's the basic value with data in that terms and moving forward. So hopefully that answers your question, or did I miss something?
This is especially with the concept form that someone has to sign. Surgeons spending 20 minutes, 30 minutes just to explain them the risks of the surgery, and they have to sign that they understand. The same happens when you do a clinical study, if the patient is really willing to give his data. And I think this is the most critical point also for all the other data. And I'm not sure if some relative can just put the button and say, I agree on behalf of that person that you get sensitive medical data.
So most of the orthopedic surgeries, 70% are happening between age group of 50 to 70. So 70% of orthopedic patients are falling into that range. Now, how many of the 50 to 70 years old doesn't know how to use a mobile device? Of course, there will never be 100% penetration, and the outlier will be there. But this is more of a challenge, normally, that the patient is not able to use the mobile device, falling into this 30% range with really older patients, which is going to improve with time, because who is 65 today is going to 75 tomorrow. And of course, the consent form is the key overall. So we don't want, so normally you cannot go in the app basically unless you have agreed on the consent form. So that's, and you can put it everything in there to get the patient to consent. This is the GDPR to go into the system. So, and also, yes, patient is the most important, and that's why I mentioned, don't step marketing it out to only a healthcare or a hospital level. You got to reach out to the patient and convey that this is generating value. And connect with the patient. And eventually, each one of us are also end users and are patients at some time. Now, how many of us, if given proper reasoning, how they are helping a future generation of patients if they are giving their data away? And of course, anonymized data, that's very clear, no personal information in that regards. So get your concepts very clearly presented to the patient, and I think they will be happy to take this forward in that regards.
I think we have a question down here.
Yeah, Jonathan Burhouse, a fantastic presentation. Your last chart where you had the triangle, in the UK system, general practice is really important. Where does it fit on that triangle? And what's your experience of working with general practice?
So, this one?
No, that one. Yeah.
So, in a general practice, again, so patient was not considered to be the most important player so far. So far, for example, a patient is going to orthopedic surgery, he cannot choose what kind of prosthesis is going in, what kind of cement is going in, and so far, and so on. Now, at this moment, with digital, because this is a technology that he will use directly, this is giving him power to be part of his care pathway. So you get to be making it clear that everything is not stopping here at the down level. So there is a change of role for pharma as well as health insurance as well as service provider. And you got to get that patient, you got to get his mindset, you got to step into his shoes and find out what does he find relevant, what not. And not to overcomplicate things, because if you overcomplicate things, it might look very good. It might look very good for you as a company, it might look very good maybe for a service provider also. but you have to think of the real end user. This is pretty much like when you use social networking platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, and everything. Yes, I mean, you can overcomplicate it with things, but it's all about the end user. What is he finding interesting? What is he not finding interesting? So target that person, which is very core, I think, here, overall, going forward.
Good. I think we had a last question coming from here.
You showed the business model, but I didn't get how you are generating revenue with your solution.
So normally it's a software as a sales model. Clearly you go in the market and say, right, this is a software solution that we want to sell as a value. So what's the value for a hospital? It's the outcome measurement, it's the data that is collected by a system. It's basically if Microsoft comes to you and say, right, here's a system, we are offering it to you, that you can use for your internal purpose to build up the infrastructure, which will help you generate value in getting the, or in measuring the patient outcome, basically with generating data, as well as reducing costs when it comes to reduction of last-minute cancellation of surgeries or getting the bad patient early into the hospital. So you just go as a service provider there. You don't go as a typical Medtech putting it forward, saying that, all right, we want to track the value of our products or anything in that regard. So simply software as a service business model.
I get that, but it's a one-time sale then?
Yes, it depends on what business model the customer is interested in. Some of them are interested in annual licensing model. Some are interested in per patient based model, so it really depends on the customer in that regards.